there's a nice message saying recording in progress, so that's very comforting. And I have prepared some words because I was saying, most people who know me, I do tend to ramble a little bit and get a bit overexcited, so I've prepared some words, so I'll just start with that and then we'll get cracking. So good afternoon everyone, and thank you for joining our Volunteers Week event, Volunteering and Employability, Mapping Out the Journey. My name is Alice McBride. I'm the Volunteer Development Officer with Engage Renfrewshire, and I'm delighted to welcome you this afternoon. This is the first time we've hosted an event like this during Volunteers Week, and actually the format for the event is quite new as well. So thank you for joining. It's lovely to have you, especially as it is a sunny day. Because today's event is a new format, we are recording the session so we can view it afterwards and see how it's gone. So if all the attendees could keep their microphones on silent, because Zoom can get a bit confused about who's talking sometimes. And if you don't want to inadvertently appear in our video, if I could just ask you to remain on silent, that'd be great. On mute, sorry. That being said, you are very welcome to participate using the chat function. So just pop any questions you have for our panelists there and we'll pose them during the question and answer session shortly. To find the chat function, either click on the screen if you're using an iPad or mobile and click the chat button to make the chat box appear. Or if you're on a laptop, just navigate to the bottom bar and there's a chat button there and it should appear on your right-hand side. Because it's a new event, the format is new, there'll also be a short poll at the end of the event where we welcome any feedback. It's an anonymous poll, so if you just pop any feedback that you have there, or if you'd like to give any direct feedback to myself, it's I'll share my email address at the end of the event as well. So that's the technical part aside, and I'd just like to introduce all of today's panelists and talk a little bit about the aim of today's event. So our panel today, and if I could just ask the panelists just to give a quick wave when I call out your names. So to begin with, we'll be hearing from Chinenye Anameje, from the Health and Wellbeing Officer and Volunteer Coordinator for Pachedu Charity. We'll then move on to hear from Bobbie McCabe, who is the Volunteer Coordinator for the Tannahill Centre. Then we'll hear from Anne Davidson, who's the Senior Economic Development Officer with Invest in Renfrewshire. And we'll be finishing up with Adele Fraser, who is Chief Executive for Linstone Housing. Thank you. And thank you very much to all our panelists for attending today and being so open and sharing your experience and your knowledge. Just to lay out the format, each of our panelists will have 5 minutes to talk about their volunteering experience before we move on to a question and answer kind of discussion section. So the aim of today's session, as the name suggests, is to try and map out the journey from volunteering to employability. At Engage, we promote volunteering for all. We recognise the many benefits volunteering can bring, and we welcome anyone who would like to try volunteering in Renfrewshire. We know that people volunteer for many different reasons and at different times throughout their lives, and employability is just one, but an important one for many. I don't think any of our panel would say definitively that volunteering will get you a job, but the skills, the experience and confidence that you can get through volunteering can make the transition into work or into a new career that bit easier. So today we're exploring how to maximise your experience, what support you can get in Renfrewshire from volunteer managers and employability partners, and why volunteering should be valued by employers and recruiters. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Chinenye to introduce himself and just talk a little bit about his experience as a volunteer. If you just pop yourself off mute, Chinenye.
Sorry about that. Hi everyone, it happens every time. So thank you for inviting me for today's session. As Alice have already introduced me as Chinenye Anameje, I'll go straight to share with you my volunteering experience. And I'll be giving you information coming from a migrant background and how it affected me and the positives and downside of it, which I hope that from the lesson learned from my story, it will go a long way in promoting volunteering. So I I have been a volunteer all my life from my primary school days, but I saw volunteering in a different perspective when I migrated to Europe. Just when I came to Europe, I found myself as an immigrant who was not legally allowed to engage in paid employment at that point. There was lots of restriction based on my immigration status. So that cost me a lot of worry. I was lonely, I was isolated, but I was down. And I was looking for a way to help myself to be able to come out of that loneliness and the downside of life. So I got an opportunity to volunteer in a community center as a garden assistant. With my qualification back in Nigeria, if somebody told me I would be the first volunteering opportunity I'll get is to help out in a garden, I would not believe that. But for the purpose of getting in that, I want to get out, I want to get some support, I want to feel okay. So I picked that opportunity and I kept building relationships. In a short time, I was discovered that there are so many other things I could do. And I was referred to a volunteer center where I was made to be an assistant in the volunteer center, helping out in filing of cabinets. Those days, hard copy. So everything is on paperwork. So I do look after files, put things in shelves, make sure the center is clean. And from there, another opportunity came. There's a training where they call Train the Trainers. In Train the Trainers, it's like an event where people are encouraged on how to do, it was on facilitation. So good enough, I attended the Train the Trainer session. I enjoyed the best of my life during that time. I was put in a 4-star hotel for 4 days for that training. And that's one of the benefits of volunteering. It gave me an opportunity to see life differently. After that training, I continued to make use of the lessons learned from the training to go in to do integration training with students in secondary schools. And after about 3 sessions in different schools, I wrote to the trainer on how I enjoyed the training and how I've been making good use of the lessons learned in the training. So the positive side of that training, in fact, that opened door for me. From that email to appreciate, as a feedback, the outcome of my training, how I'm making use of it. In less than 2 weeks, I was contacted that there's an opportunity, there's a scholarship offer available for people from disadvantaged communities, if I'll be happy to apply. And I took that chance. Having that opportunity was because of volunteering. If I was not volunteering at that point, I might not have gotten that opportunity to apply. And good enough, I got that offer to do a first degree in development studies. So that alone have taken away that pain, that isolation, that loneliness that I had when I came in as newly. After that, I went in, I continued my volunteering. In everywhere I find myself, this volunteering all the way. And that was a boost for me. I kept learning new skills, knowledge, and I found myself going into a different career. So if not volunteering, I wouldn't find myself to make that decision, which I see as my dream in life. So in less than 2 years after my first degree in development studies, I got another offer for a master's degree in global health, all because of volunteering. There's no other thing. I spent no kobo, I spent no money to get that opportunity. All they looked at was my volunteering profile. They said, Chinenye, if you could have done this as a volunteer all the way from Nigeria within this short time, we see no reason why I would not support you to move on. So it's something that I'll always share. And after that, I finished, I got my master's degree, came out, continued volunteering. In everywhere I find myself, there must be something to do to give back to the community, to look after where the people I live with. So again, my journey through Scotland from Ireland. I could not find a job in my dream world. So I had to take up a different job in a bank, but that's not where I belong. I tried looking for jobs in the third sector. There were opportunities. I go into interviews. I do very well in most of the interviews, but at the end of the day, sorry, you do not have local experience of Glasgow. That disqualifies me to get a job in my dream area of work. And the closest advice I will get as a feedback is try to find a volunteering organization, find a way to volunteer to be able to gain that local experience. At some point, I'll no longer enjoy my work in the bank. I decided to quit. I quit my job just because I'm no longer enjoying that job. So if the only way to get a job where I want is volunteering, I have to. And that decision, it wasn't an easy decision. You have to put food on the table. You have to look after your family. But it was a choice. It was a choice I made, believing that something good will come out of it. And good enough, I found myself by recommendation to Pachedu. I was interviewed. I produced my CV, and they said, well, we don't have much to offer. This is what we do. If you're happy to work with us, we'll give you an opportunity to see how you can do. While we hope that if there's any place, any vacancy anywhere, we will make sure we support you to make a good application. We are not promising you anything, a job, but as we can see the positivity in you, let's see what happens. I just have to say this at this point. I started volunteering 2 days after accepting me as a volunteer in Pachedu. The lockdown came in. That was the greatest blow. But the good news that the challenges, it was like we made something good out of the challenges. So in less than 3 months of volunteering as a volunteer with Pachedu, I got a part-time paid job with Pachedu, which is a 1-year contract and which is ongoing now. So just to let it be, it's a journey that is really positive for me, and it's a continuous journey, which I will say that anybody who knows what it is to be a migrant, to find himself in certain conditions, will say it's good to volunteer and it's good to give it every support available to get people up and doing. Okay. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Chinenye. That was brilliant. Brilliant. I think so many points that you said, the journey, taking risks, absolutely just taking every opportunity as well. Absolutely brilliant. We are going to have questions afterwards. So if you have any questions for Chinenye, if you can pop them in the chat just now, and we'll have them ready for the question and answer session. But thank you to Chinenye, thank you very much. We'll move on. Bobbie. Bobbie is with the Tannahill Centre, and Bobbie's going to talk a little bit about being or leading volunteers and any of their employability needs. I'll let Bobbie talk. Take it away, Bobbie.
Thanks, Alice. So Alice has sent me some questions in preparation, and I've kind of answered them, so I'll give you an idea of what the question is. The first one is around the change, how volunteers have changed and their approach to roles since I've been managing volunteers within the Tannahill Centre. And to be honest with you, when I started in post, they had never had a volunteer coordinator before, and I'd never been one before. So in some ways that was quite daunting, but in other ways it was a real opportunity to allow the project to grow very, very organically and to plan things responsibly on the back of the things that we were asked about, the requests that the volunteers brought to us as regards skills or training or the interest that they had. So we approach things slightly differently at the Tannahill in that we rarely advertise specific roles and really create them more around what the volunteers themselves want. This can be because of a need or an interest that's identified within the community or just through a conversation. And to give you an example of that, I had lunch with some of the volunteers one day, and we realised sitting around the table that we all had experience of being parents of children with additional support needs. And we came up with the idea of forming a support group out of that, and that, you know, very, very organically, which was really good. And unfortunately that happened just before lockdown. So that group, which I think deserves a medal, managed to keep together and keep going just through conversation online. But more recently we've been able to start meeting up, and already the feedback we've had is that it's been a great group. The group are actually deciding themselves how they will operate, the kind of things that they want to offer to other parents, and they're starting to invite other parents to join the group. So that's the volunteers actually actively recruiting other volunteers. They really want some TLC, they want some time to shoot the breeze, talk about the challenges or the wins that they've had that week, maybe get some formal information about benefits and things like that, and how to even form filling and that sort of thing can be a challenge for some people. As regards the COVID response that our volunteers have demonstrated, it really has been a shining example of empowerment and the difference that people can make within their own community as volunteers. Their commitment has grown arms and legs. It's been just a joy to watch. There's been a huge increase in the number of volunteers that we've had because the Tannahill Centre got funding to roll out a COVID response programme. And lots of people just came to say, well, I'm furloughed, or I want something to do, or I want to make a difference. I just need to. It really was quite an emotional response as well. So we kind of had to adapt the way we did things. One of the ways we did that was through, I was laughing earlier with Alice saying we made home activity packs. And if I never see another activity pack, that's fine. But to give you an example of one, the previous year we'd had a community advent calendar, and we'd had meetings and workshops in-house where people designed a window display, and it was great. Then it came to last year and we couldn't do that, we couldn't meet. So everything had to go into a bag. All of the support had to be put in place virtually, and still they did it. So we got lots of new volunteers who connected up, shared their skills, shared their ideas, and the end result was a beautiful creative group that shared all of their artistic skills and ideas and hints and tips, but really formed as a little micro group themselves who are still together and are going on to do other things. We also had a really powerful food program that started off with volunteers called Darkwood Crew, who delivered lots of packages of food, and then so doorstep drops basically, And then what the end result of that, now that things are starting to get back to normal, is a community market which is run by volunteers within the Tannahill Centre, using surplus food that would otherwise go to waste, really. Sorry, Karen, you don't want me to answer that, that's fine. So that was unexpected. Although lockdown could be seen as a way of stopping us in our tracks, it actually gave us lots of new opportunities. The next question is around, if someone comes to volunteer but they only have a small window and really want to volunteer around to build their employability. My response to that is that it really needs to be what they need. So we start with a conversation, and we work on a personal development plan, setting goals and a timescale to achieve those targets, and really figure out a roadmap of how we're going to meet that need. Very often it can be around, I think it's easier if you identify things that the volunteer is interested in themselves, so that they get a much more enjoyable experience in volunteering. Because really it needs to be fun. If it's not fun, it's going to be too hard. We need to be adaptable as well when supporting our volunteers, so that if situations change or if they have challenges, that we can really work within that as well. Because really they're giving us their gift of time, and time is the biggest gift that we can give to anybody. And I think we've all become very, very conscious of the value of time during the past year and a half. Sometimes a volunteer will need to take a break for whatever reason. We need to be able to accommodate that. And mostly, I think actually almost 100% our volunteers have returned because they just enjoy it so much and they want to be back. We try to identify what training is most relevant for them. All of our volunteers are given first aid training, food hygiene and child protection training. And that's really about, I describe it as putting tools in their toolkit so that, you know, really strengthens up the offer that they can make. And of course, it leads them on the road then to employability. We liaise with West College Scotland. We have a very good relationship with them and identify relevant learning opportunities that the college may be able to offer. And they're really fantastic at supporting us and putting programs together, because we're on the ground really identifying what people want to do, how they want to upskill, and you know, at the end of the day, it will help them to get on the road to new opportunities. COVID has changed the way that people volunteer as well. So there's lots more kind of in their street with their neighbours, keeping an eye, checking in, cutting grass, all that kind of thing. But it's all done with the same mindset. And I think that's a really good indicator of adaptability as well. Next question is around what has the response been to the way we approach volunteering in the Tannahill Centre and the turnaround of volunteers. We don't really lose volunteers. I'm very, very lucky to be able to say that people are still engaged, and because of that adaptability I described, you know, we keep the conversation going around, are you still enjoying it? There's regular check-ins. Is this still meaningful for you? What do we need to change? What would you like to keep? In a way I describe sometimes as it's a bit like being on a train journey. We don't always get on and off at the same stops. People in the carriage can change from time to time as they come and go. The passenger list will vary as well from time to time, but the train keeps moving and we're all on the journey together. Our volunteers, I said, stay with us. They enjoy the variety of things that are on offer in the Tannahill Centre, which is really vast. You can do anything from, you can be Santa if you like, or elves, or you can help with food delivery or organising groups and clubs. And if I give you an example of one of our volunteer stories, we had a long established volunteer who was very engaged in a project, but found it too physically demanding, so needed to take a break. We kept in touch through calling in. It was before lockdown, so able to pop in, have a cup of tea, that kind of thing. And then this this volunteer moved on to a volunteer role with a partner organisation, but it just wasn't quite the right fit for her. And we encouraged her and supported her to have that conversation with the partner organisation to say, you know, we tried it on for size, but it wasn't really the right fit for me. So then more recently, the volunteers come to us and said, I think I've got an idea for something to do myself. I would like to support people as a listening ear. So what she wants to do is set up her little table in the Tannahill Centre when it opens. We're opening again tomorrow, and to support people on a drop-in basis. And that would be just to try it out. It's going to evolve over time. It's something that's going to grow. For me, my job to support that volunteer is to ensure that they are properly looked after, so that there are safeguarding things in place, active listening, training about confidentiality, and following a request from this volunteer, the Learning Centre are going to rerun counselling skills training in the Learning Centre after the summer break. So it's all of that working together, all the little layers. It becomes like a patchwork quilt that's very, very individualised for the volunteer. And for me, it's great fun. It's totally personalised, it's person-centred, and that is the approach that we like to take to nurture everybody, nurture the relationships, and just give them the best possible volunteering opportunity that we can. Now I'm finished.
That was brilliant, Bobbie. Thank you very much. Thank you for answering the questions so wonderfully. Again, I know I've made some notes, so we'll come to questions just after Anne and Hadel have spoken. You can probably see that Karen's popped a question in the chat, so if you have one as well, just follow her lead and pop it in there. Brilliant, thank you very much, Bobbie. We'll move straight on to Anne, if that's okay, who's going to talk a little bit more about the kind of practical side of skills building with one of our employability partners, which is Invest in Renfrewshire.
Okay, I'm just trying to sort out my, can't see it for the screen thing. Ah, sorry.
That's okay, we can see it. It's not full screen, but we can see the information.
Right, okay, I'll just do it from there. So, should really go at the beginning, shouldn't I? That would help. So, I'm one of the 3 employability coordinators at Invest in Renfrewshire, which is Renfrewshire Council's employability programme. Part of our team work with helping unemployed people and employed people to progress in work, also moving people into training, education and volunteering. And the other half of the economic development team, which is what Invest in Renfrewshire is part of, help businesses to grow in the area. So you've probably seen lots of signage, hopefully, throughout Renfrewshire. So our team focuses on helping people into opportunities like volunteering, training, education and work. We get a lot of funding, mainly from Europe, although that will end at the 31st of December 2022. And the Scottish Government have promised that they will either match or exceed the funding that we've already got through Europe from January 2023. But we also receive funding from the Scottish Government. We also receive funding from DWP. So there's a variety of pots of money. I used to work in a social enterprise, and come to the council for money is such a big difference. There's always money, there's money under desks and everything. That's my perception anyway. I don't think it's actually true. So we help people. Our main group of people is to help anyone who lives in Renfrewshire who's unemployed to find work. Obviously, if they're not ready for work, then we can look at other things like education, training and volunteering to help build the skills to enable them to look for work eventually if that's what they want to do. You can see on the screen just now that we offer a variety of things. So when people come to us to register, we're based in the Russell Institute in Paisley. Obviously, we're not open. There's only a few staff in just now. You can see I'm in the office today. most of our staff are working from home, so a lot of the stuff we're doing is Teams, and like everyone else had said, you're learning. As soon as lockdown happened, we'd never used Teams before, so we have to think, how do we do this? So you adapt the way you're working, you think of new things that you've never done before, because that's how you need to operate in these circumstances. So the type of things that we help, when people come in, they have a registration appointment with an individual advisor, and that advisor finds out what it is that they're looking to do. Are they looking to go into education? Do they just want training? Do they want training to look for work? Do they want to volunteer? Hopefully to look for work as well. So our advisors create an individual action plan for that person. And so it could be things like employability training. I don't have a CV, so I need a CV to get done. I'm not very good at application forms, so I would like some application form training. Interview skills. Everyone's terrified at an interview, but once you know what to expect, it's a lot easier to go along to. So we've got employability training running every day, each week. And at the moment it's on Microsoft Teams. And if people are not sure how to work that, then we can train them how to do that. We'll have someone phone them, give them advice on how to connect to the system. We also have sector-based work academies, or they're called SWAPs now. Don't ask me what the difference is, but they're still the same thing. So it's training to prepare people for working in a particular sector. And construction has been open most of the time during lockdown. Care is a big thing. So the two recent ones have been in construction and care. So we run a training programme, give them accredited qualifications during that period. And then our job brokerage team, who I'll speak a wee bit about later, look for opportunities and jobs for the clients who have now got the skills to move into work. We've also got lots of accredited online training. So we work with a company called Digital College, and I heard Bobbie saying earlier about first aid, food hygiene, there's different things like that. We can provide all that. If people are saying, oh, it could be, usually it's a quick turnaround. I've got an interview next week, they're looking for a food hygiene certificate. This is a quick way of getting it. We can arrange that. And again, it's online because of the circumstances at the moment. Digital College will always be online, but once we get back to normal, if that ever happens, we will have training in our hub, which is our Russell Institute in Paisley, as mentioned. Got lots of vocational opportunities. So at the moment, we can't really do work experience. I think there's limited opportunities for that just now, but that is something that we normally offer. Volunteering, we've actually just set up in our 16 to 29 team, 16 to 24, I'm going back a bit, 16 to 24 team. One of our advisors is purely helping people to volunteer, and they're running courses along with West College Scotland in order to give them the skills that they would need to do that as well. So it's working quite well. And we support people into work. So we're always looking at job matching for the people who are interested in moving on. So I mentioned earlier about the job brokerage team. So as I said, I'm one of 3 employability coordinators who all report into Laura Neal. So Laura's our manager. So there's myself, I manage the advisors in the 25 who deal with clients aged 25 and over. I've also got Melissa McGrogan, who's an employability coordinator, and she deals with 16 to 24-year-old advice. Well, they're not 16 to 24, they wish they were, but they deal with the 16 to 24-year-old clients. And we've got Leanne, who works with employers, brings vacancies in that are suitable for our clients, sets up partnership agreements. There's over 1,000 employers in Renfrewshire signed up to invest in Renfrewshire. So if we're looking for an employer to come in and give a talk during one of the sector-based work academies, then we can usually get hold of one, and then they're quite happy to come. This is what it's like working in this particular sector, for example. I mentioned earlier that DWP have provided some funding for us, and that's the Kickstart programme. You may have seen that on the news recently. It's a big national programme to help young people. Because of the pandemic, they feel as if they've been really isolated because of that. So there's a lot of money going into youth just now. So Kickstart's one of the programmes. We're a gateway provider, so it's our role to get the employers in to offer these opportunities to the young people, and the opportunities are 26 weeks paid work placements, and then hopefully we would help them into work after that. And our aim is to get 700 new jobs for youth within Renfrewshire. And there's also another pot of money called the Young Person's Guarantee, and that's a Scottish Government fund. And again, it's very similar to Kickstart, only it's jobs in education, training and volunteering for every single 16 to 24-year-old within Renfrewshire. So Leanne's team help support Melissa's team with all the employee engagement for those opportunities. So I wanted to give you a wee story of one of their clients who has been successful because due to her volunteering opportunity. So this is Jade. Jade had gone to university and had managed to get a degree in social work, but she didn't have any work experience in social work, and she couldn't get any jobs. No one was giving her an opportunity. So our advisor Lynn contacted one of the children's units in Renfrewshire and asked if there was a senior social worker that she spoke to, and they said, is there any chance that Jade could come just to see what it's like? So she got a tour, but then through discussion, the senior staff member said to her, well, why don't you volunteer? So Jade started volunteering in one of the units so she could see what it was like. After a few weeks, she was actually offered to deliver sessions on behalf of the unit, and Jade absolutely loved it. And she thought, this is the job I want to do. So from then on, due to the skills and qualities she's learning through that, she wanted to be, that's what her job is. Lynn supported her with applications and interview skills and things like that. And she's actually secured a job in one of the Glasgow units. And she will say, Jade has said, it's because of that opportunity I was given through volunteering that I now have my dream job. So just thought that was a nice wee story to tell you how volunteering fits in. And basically that's it. If you feel that anyone would benefit from anything that Invest in Renfrewshire can offer, I've got some information there, I can share that with you. We've also got a website if anyone wants to look at that, and we've got social media pages as well. And there's lots of good news stories on the social media pages, as well as job opportunities. We continually update that. And that's me, I think. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Anne. Thanks for a wealth of information there, but I know a lot of that information is on Invest's websites and you put your contact details there. So if anyone wants to follow up, particularly the digital training sounds very good. And I'm sure will be of use to a lot of our volunteer managers.
Okay.
Thanks very much. So just one more speaker, which is Adele. So Adele is with Linstone Housing, and Adele is going to talk to us a little bit about the perspective of an employer working with volunteers. So again, just take it away, Adele, thanks.
Hello, thank you very much for inviting me along today. I haven't done a presentation or anything, but I'm just going to speak for a few minutes and tell you about my own background in terms of volunteering. I started working in a few different sort of jobs. I wanted to be a teacher back in the 1980s, but at that time there was no jobs for people. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I thought, you know, I'd finished at university, but I didn't have a job. And I was just thinking, what am I going to try to do? So I went to start volunteering, and I was actually a volunteer tutor in Glasgow, and I used to do that with a young boy who was in primary school to help him with his reading and with his homework. So I did that for probably about a year. I really enjoyed it. I made lots of contacts, and then I moved on to work on a voluntary basis with Gingerbread, that you may have heard of, which is a single parent organisation. So I really enjoyed that as well. I met, again, lots of people. I was helping Gingerbread with events they were holding for their client group and just getting to know lots of people. So I think for me, that was my training, if you like, in terms of my next move, which was to work in housing. So I started off with Scottish Special Housing. Anybody that's old enough, as old as me, you might remember it. Yeah, it was a great organisation, but for me, you know, I had an English degree. I was thinking about being a teacher, but that wasn't going to happen. So I had to find another way. And like some of the earlier speakers, I think the volunteering let me find the path into what I wanted to do and to working in housing. But that's enough about me. I work now I've worked in Lindstone for a number of years now, and we rely on volunteers within our business actually, because our board of management is actually all volunteers. They volunteer on our board, and because we're a non-profit making organisation, we depend on volunteers to help run the association here. And so do all housing associations depend on that. And I think during the pandemic, the strength of that approach has really become evident. Where we have worked, Lindstone was recognised by the Scottish Government as a community anchor organisation, and it meant that we could bring funding into Renfrewshire, and we worked very closely with Engage to disperse that funding. But it meant that a lot of community activities running with volunteers, we could help to bring some funding for that work. And so I think it has made a big difference to communities. In particular, we've worked with our tenants and residents associations. We've got 4 of them that are active, and they've been doing a marvellous job supporting their communities and just really doing what's needed to be done locally. So instead of Lindstone saying, oh, we could come out and do X, Y, and Z, what we've done is we've supported the tenants and residents associations, and as well as other community groups, to enable them to work with volunteers and provide services within their local communities. And we've built up a lot of good relationships with these organisations and with the volunteers. I was just going to go on and mention about the Kickstart programme that Lindstone. I'm very pleased that we've managed to get 5 trainee places where we're going to offer work experience to young people from Renfrewshire. But prior to that, we were doing quite a lot of work with the SCVO, which is the voluntary organisations, Scottish Voluntary Council for Voluntary Organisations. And we had quite a few young people that came in for starting off as volunteers with us. And one young chap in particular, his name's Stephen, and he came in here and he made such a good impression on us that a lot of our staff he was looking for a permanent job, but a lot of our staff, instead of me saying, oh, I'll help you or whatever, a lot of our staff actually came forward to support him in developing his career. And I'm pleased to advise that he did go on and get a permanent position in another housing association. So I think it's really, I'm just trying to say about the benefits of volunteering to young people, particularly. Housing associations are always looking for people that are interested in working with us and volunteering. That might be helping a tenants group that wants to run a drop-in cafe or local community activities, or it could be just to support organisations within the community with volunteering. I think that's probably all from me, because I just wanted to talk a bit about how important volunteers are within the housing sector. And some people might not have had anything to do with our sector. So I would say there's housing associations all over Scotland, and most of them are looking for people that might volunteer for their board or might volunteer for some of the community activities that they are running in their local areas. So thanks very much.
That's brilliant, Adele. Thank you very much. I just wanted to pick up on something which you'd all said there, or which kind of came through to me, is that the breadth of volunteering opportunities is far more than I think many of us appreciate. You know, you can be Father Christmas with Bobbie, you can sit on the board with Adele, you can get a direct experience working for a charity and then transition over or go and work in a similar charity, the same sector. I think with a lot of kind of approaches to volunteering, it's very much, I need to volunteer in this role to get this experience to go into this. This is my perception. Please jump in, any of the panelists, if you think wrong, but the need to get this experience, to get this kind of job, to get this kind of career. And I think one of the huge benefits for volunteering is the breadth of it, that you can get a lot more out of your volunteering than just the experience for that job or for that career that you think you want to go for. You can also get experience in a career you think want to go for and find you actually you don't want to go for that at all, which is another great benefit of volunteering. But there are just a few comments in the chat, which is great. Thank you very much for sharing that, and just for your messages to our panelists. Thank you, panelists. You've been brilliant just for sharing your experiences. I did want to ask a couple of questions, if that's all right. We've just got 10 minutes. So if I just want to ask a couple of questions of our panelists. So one question is about that, you know, volunteers coming. So this is probably for Chinenye, maybe not for Anne, although actually probably for Anne as well, but for Chinenye and Bobbie. Do you find volunteers will come with a very definite idea of what kind of experience they want to have with your organisation, and so they would like to be, you know, they want experience of working with communities because they would like to go into a community role? Or do you find it's a much more, I'm not really sure what I want to be doing, but I'd just like to get the experience? Bobbie, do you want to start?
Yes, it's kind of a combination of both. So it can be somebody coming at the tail end of an event that we've organised saying, that was really good, how do I get involved in that? And then, you know, it's an opportunity to say, we are looking for people if you want. And some people, they just drift into the centre. It's just one of those places. They'll come in and you'll start to chat and you'll have a conversation about what they're doing. Or where they're trying to get to, and it just grows from there quite organically, as I said earlier. So it's very individual, really. Some people come in with one mindset and leave with a totally different idea because maybe they hadn't realised the breadth of opportunities that may be there, or we can tweak something so that it fits in with what they need.
Brilliant. All right, thank you. And Chinenye, have you found a similar experience?
Yes, I agree with Bobbie, everything that she said. More especially, volunteers, sometimes they don't know what is available unless you give them that information. If they give them as much information as possible, then encourage them to open up. If they are interested, let them just give them free time to consider picking up this volunteering, and maybe it will be something that they like. That some people will come in their particular interest, and when that is not there, you just don't need to waste that person. Encourage the person. This is what we've got. Don't promise what is not, what you cannot offer. So if you are comfortable now to have a change of mind to try this way, then go for it. Other than that, if it's not one's area of interest, there's no point wasting the person's time.
Right. Yeah. Anne, have you had the experience of people coming and saying, I definitely want this experience from volunteering?
Yes, I agree with Bobbie as well, that it's definitely a mixture. Some people come with a definite idea, but some people come, they don't know where they want to work or where they want to volunteer. So got to give them different options, and then they can choose. And again, I agree, like, it's like work experience. You might think you want to do a particular thing, and then when you're doing it, you realise that's not for me. And that, to me, is still a positive outcome, because you realise that you don't want to go down that road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's with Invest, it is about positive outcomes, isn't it? It's not all, it's so people can come to you who are employed but want to go some, you know, have a different journey, I suppose, isn't it? So,
yes.
Yeah, great.
We deal with parents, so poverty inclusion is a big thing that we are funded for as well. So if parents in Renfrewshire are working or not working, if they're working and maybe they want to make their households less in poverty or more affluent, then they can come to us and we'll look for a better paid job or another job that might add on to what they're doing. So in that case, yeah, we do work with employed people as well, or people who are underemployed. So a graduate who's maybe working in McDonald's, but they know that's not where they want to be, then we would support them that way as well for employed people.
Great. This is a very big question to finish on, but I'd like to hear from all of you and attendees if you'd like to pop in the chat. But what do you think is the biggest barrier for people going into volunteering? What's one thing that you hear from volunteers, something that they say, I'd love to volunteer, but, or I've thought about volunteering, but. Adele, have you experienced that, people wanting to support the Housing Association, but perhaps, you know, just hearing the same things?
I have, and what we normally do is speak to the people that are interested to find out. I mean, not everybody's available 24 hours a day, not that we're looking for that, but somebody might say, oh, I've got childcare responsibilities, so I can't be available at certain times. So we'll try and organise meetings to suit our volunteers, especially people that we're encouraging to take part in introductory courses about housing that a group of associations called FLAIR in Renfrewshire we run. It's called the FLAIR Academy, which is sort of training for people that might be interested in coming onto boards. So we would say to people, well, if you can't attend that, then perhaps it can be recorded and you can look at it later on. But I think it's trying to encourage people to come back and say, well, you know, well, you don't have to come to work in an office, you know, for a full day, that kind of thing. It would maybe be a 1 to 2 hour meeting once a month that you would be looking for you to come on. And I think if you try and explain that there's different ways that people can go about it, then there might be more success.
Yeah, brilliant. Chinenye, did you have a different experience or similar
experience? Yes, yeah. I think most of the challenges is about people not believing in themselves that they can actually participate actively in delivering in the role they are expected, what they are expected to do. But it's our responsibility to open up to potential volunteers that there's opportunity for training, there's opportunity to learn new skills, there's opportunity to guide them. It's like supporting someone to be in a job. Just see it as a way of learning new things to do, not from that. That's one of the major things. When they are not confident, you just need to help them to build their confidence. And also that interest in the role is another thing. So it's good to help them to develop, know the possibilities that are available. Especially that was another thing that might encourage people to take to break those barriers. If they see that their chances are there, the support is available, that makes it easier.
Yep. Brilliant. Lots of nodding heads along with you there. And Bobbie, you've put in the chat as well about the lack of confidence can be a real barrier. And I don't want to make sweeping statements, but I think that is true across age demographics, background, and you know, the lack of confidence and lack of knowledge of what a volunteering role can go on to, can bring you, not just in terms of employability. I think that's a very interesting point to leave on, something for us to think about, build on for our next event, if we hold a next event that's similar to this one. Unless anyone's got any other points they wanted to raise, thank you for, Gozi just popped one in the end there, let's not deny the impact of racial discrimination. Absolutely not. The way of, in terms of being inclusive in our volunteering practices is something that we engage, look at actively and try to look at and be proactive about. My colleague Gozi is with us to do just that, to connect in with communities and make sure that all of our practices from us that engage and from our members are inclusive. So if you ever want to talk to us about those, Gozi's your person. I'm sure she'd be happy for me to share her details if she wanted to. Yeah, I'm getting a smile. A question from one of our attendees: do you recruit volunteers at the moment? We at Engage have a volunteering platform, which is just volunteer.engagerenfrewshire.com, which lists all the opportunities in Renfrewshire. We have about 100 members are signed up to that service at the moment, and we'll upload their opportunities as they are as they become available. But of course, we do have all of these networks of great people like Bobbie and like Chinenye, who will work with you if there's an idea that you have or a connection that you'd like to make. So do get in touch if you would like to start volunteering. That would be brilliant. I'm going to leave us there. I'm going to post up a quick poll, fill it in if you would like. If you have to head off, that's absolutely fine as well. But thank you very much for joining us today. I will put you in touch, Gozi. I'll share Gozi's details with all of our panelists today, if that's all right. And I'll share my details with all attendees. And if you'd like make any other connections, then don't worry about that at all. Okay, I'm going to launch this poll. But if you have to head off, that is absolutely fine. So thanks very much for joining us today. I hope you all had a brilliant Volunteers Week over the last week. Just seeing some of the amazing stories that came out was very, very heartwarming and made me feel very much more connected with the volunteering world in Renfrewshire again. So thanks very much, everyone.
Can I just take a moment to say like a really big thanks to Alice. Honestly, she has been front and centre in preparing for Volunteers Week and bringing out the best in what you guys do in Renfrewshire. And I really have got a sense of the quality, the depth and the breadth of quality of volunteering on the back of, just being, in touch with Alice over the last few months. Let's make it as inclusive as we can. And we're all there together, and it's really it's grand to see you all on the call today. Thanks, Alice.
Thank you. That's very kind of you to say, and of course it's really a thank you to the members for sharing all of the amazing work they do. Okay, I'll launch this poll. Respond if you would, but otherwise just have a really great day, everyone. And I will send out details for my details and Gozi's details to all of our panelists. So if you'd like any more information, I'll also include information about our volunteering platform, the website where you can sign up for opportunities. So thanks very much. I'll remember to stop recording as well.